Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing?
Really good. That's the Oilers are. They won a hard-fought game, and they're back at real 500. 13 wins and 13 losses. They got a couple games in hand on the teams they're chasing, so they're right back in the hunt, Bruce, for the playoffs, and that's exactly where they have to be this year. They couldn't have another year where they just were out of it by, well, last year they came back in December and were kind of out of it by early January, I guess, after that horrible losing streak after Christmas.
Yeah, right after Christmas, they tanked the whole season.
They'd kind of been out of it. I mean, they did manage to claw their way back, and they got close to real 500 just before Christmas, didn't they?
Yeah, they actually did. They got to 17, 17, and 2. Remember it well. They had a 4-game winning streak, their only one of the season. And then they came back after Christmas, and they lost a couple of tight games, and then they got beat 5-0 on their home ice twice in a row. And it just snowballed.
Yeah, Sakura came back in the lineup, and as opposed to improving the team, it kind of tanked. It was like the straw that broke the camel's back defensively, because he was just awful. Even in his ice time gradually reduced, and having him leaking a goal against per game really sunk that was a big part of the reason. I mean, Talbot, there was all kinds of reasons. Let's not get into it. All right, we're doing our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast on the Oilers 2-1 win over Vegas. And Bruce, what is your good thing?
Oh, my good thing tonight has to be Mikko Koskinen and the uber solid net minding he's been providing for the Oil this last while, actually pretty much since he's taken over the net. And he
every game this year, how about?
Yeah, pretty close. I mean, he just came through a homestand, David, where he won 1-0 in overtime, 3-2, and then 2-1. They gave him 6 goals of support, and he won all 3 games for the Oilers. And Tonight, they gave him almost no support of any kind for about the first 5 minutes of play, and it was because of the solid play of Koskinen that just before the first TV timeout, the shots were 8-1. And instead of the score being 2-0, because they scored on their first 2 chances, as has happened too often to the Oilers these last couple of seasons, it was 0-0, and then one moment of magic from McDavid, and it was the Oilers with the upper hand. But they had their goalie to thank for that lead.
They sure did. I counted 4 grade A scoring chances for Vegas in that period.
Wow.
And every other game, I mean, let's face it, every other game with Talbot or Brossoit in that last year or this year with either of those 2, it would have been 1 or 2-0 for sure. There just wasn't a game where that didn't happen, or rarely a game, to be fair. So I guess they call it in Finland, they call Koskinen 3-meter man.
Wow.
Is his nickname. That's from Kulta Kutri, who's a big Finnish Oilers fan, or at least a fan of the Finnish players on the Oilers. I don't know if she's an Oilers fan. So yeah, he's so calm, Bruce. He's just a cool cucumber, and you just start to get this feeling like the Oilers are in good hands. And I can't remember the last time that I've had that feeling with an Oilers goalie.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be such a common feeling. Well, a long time ago, when we had Moog and Fuhrer and Bill Ranford and Curtis Joseph, we just got used to. And then the last time I think we've really had it was Rolofsson, when he got hot there in 2006. It's kind of hard to remember, though, a time since then. There's been a few roles with Dubnyk or Habibulin for short periods of time, but where you've just counted on the Oilers goalie to make some big saves and maybe even be better than the other team's goalie. I guess Talbot had it. I'm not being fair to Talbot, because he was good in 2016-17 for a period of time as well, a long period of time. But is that your dog scratching at the door?
Yeah. She wants to be on the other side of the door. If she's on the other side, she wants to be in this room. If she's in the room, she wants to be out.
You could throw a broken clipboard at her.
Yeah, I got a few laying around.
None from tonight, though.
None from tonight. Oh, David, you tell me why it is that when the goalie gets pulled at the end of the game, if it's the Oilers goalie that gets pulled, the other team immediately scores into the empty net, like immediately. And when the Oilers are defending the lead and the other guys pull their goalie, it's hang on Harvey to the final buzzer. Happens over and over again. I don't know.
Well, if I was to guess, honestly, I'd say it's the lack of a dominant defenseman on the Oilers who kind of controls the play. And, they don't have a Pronger guy. I mean, who does have a Pronger? But most teams have a better top pairing or top four. Like, they can send out more controlling players out there. But you're right, Bruce. That is a huge factor in the Oilers' goals against this year. Like their overall goals for and goals against.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I think it may be, what is it, 8 empty net goals against for the Oilers?
7 a game. They pulled the goalie in 8 games, and they've given in 7 empty net goals. I mean, it's just pathetic. And usually they give in an empty net goal with like 40, 50, 75 seconds left. Like, it's not like they get the other.
And have they scored one, maybe? They've scored
2.
one?
They got 2. They got
okay.
2. Way back.
Okay, here's my good thing, Bruce. That's a bad thing. So let's my good thing is it's the grunts and the grinders who came through tonight.
Okay.
McDavid's, other than his surreal goal, which was truly surreal, actually called everyone from around the house to gather around and watch that goal. It was that spectacular that even the non-fans in the house were maybe a little bit interested. But one of them came and watched it.
Leo Messi.
Yeah, that's what that goal was. But other than that and we'll get into this later, I wasn't that impressed with the top line. But it's players like Ty Ratty, Spooner, who scored, Jujhar Khaira, Chris Russell, Kevin Gravel. I mean, Nuge was fantastic. He's not exactly a grunter or a grinder, but those are the players who came through tonight. Zach Kassian, who was reborn, absolutely reborn under Ken Hitchcock. And you're kind of hoping for that with the new coach, that some players are going to finally get a second chance and try to show something. And Cassian's definitely in that boat. Is he ever playing smart hockey, protecting the puck, hustling like crazy? Just looks like he's a new man out there. He's the old Zach Kassian that we haven't seen in more than a year. So those are the guys who won the game for the Oilers tonight. They came through and we got some secondary scoring, just one goal, of course, but better than nothing. And it was the difference.
You need those goals from the bottom 6 once in a while. Tonight the Oilers needed one, and they got one, and it's huge. I mean, that's the fourth line is constituted tonight. Well, I guess tonight they had Ratty, who had scored a couple of goals earlier in the year, but they got nobody down there in the bottom 6 who has more than 2 goals. And a whole bunch of guys with 0, including Ryan Spooner, until he came through with the big game winner tonight. But it was a good play, good hustle play by all 3 guys. Ratty kind of chased the guy into trouble, and then Khaira took advantage of the stray puck and put a good pass out in front, and Fleury wasn't set, and that's why Spooner's shot beat him. The chance developed so quickly, and it was bang in the net.
I really like Ty Ratty as a player, Bruce, and I think he should be on this team. He may be in danger of losing his job with new
guy coming
what's
over.
His name?
Oh, Zikov.
Marshall Zikov. So they have, but I like Ty Ratty. I think he's a smart and effective hockey player, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get another chance on the top line with Draisaitl and McDavid. Not necessarily in the power play, chase on chewing it up, but at even strength, Ty Ratty really keeps that play going and makes smart plays with the puck. And yeah, I liked his game. So what is your bad thing?
I'm going to shout out also for Matt Benning.
Yeah,
who wasn't on your list immediately, but I thought he had a strong game, had some very good moments. And just to echo what the other guy you mentioned, Chris Russell, man, did he make a lot of good plays tonight.
He was
very good with the puck.
Strong.
He got the puck going, made good decisions with the puck, and he was skating great. He won a lot of races and put out a few fires in the process.
I really don't get the enmity that some people have for that player. I just think it's preposterous and ridiculous and unfair.
It's like he can play 5 good games in a row and there's just dead silence, and then he comes out and he has a game where he makes a couple of mistakes, and it's like he's the worst, and his contract is the worst, and he shouldn't be here, and Chiarelli should be fired, and Yeah. Anyway, tonight he belonged in the NHL, and he certainly belonged on this team and delivered a strong performance. He was one of a number of foot soldiers, as you say, who did, but one who particularly caught my eye in this game.
So what's your bad thing?
Well, really, the first 5 minutes of the first period, which I've already singled out Mikko Koskinen for being brilliant in that time. But the reason he had to be brilliant was because the team was just not really quite ready for prime time. And Vegas just took it to him. They were all over him for the first. There was one shift
The
where
McDavid line had a
the
terrible
McDavid line couldn't get
shift.
out. And Koskinen made a save, and they got the puck, and they couldn't get it out. And Koskinen made another big save, and they got the puck and turned it over. And Koskinen made a third big save, and they got the puck and they turned it over again. And he had to make a fourth save. And each time the Oilers actually had possession in between. And the shift, I don't know, it went anywhere between 90 seconds and 90 minutes. I'm not quite sure. It sure seemed to last forever. And it was that was white knuckle time for the Oil, and thankfully they had the big netminder to put out all of those fires, but fires there were. And then once McDavid made the magical goal play, Oilers really, I think they played pretty well after that for the most part. I mean, Vegas is a good team, and the Oilers hung with them pretty good, and they outshot them. Obviously, they outscored them, and were at least the equals on the night.
Yeah, that was the turning point, and it came early in the game. But the McDavid line, this is what I don't like about McDavid and Draisaitl. One of the things I don't like is that no one knows who the real center is. No one takes responsibility in a kind of a fundamental way. They were both kind of wandering in and out of the center spot on that horrendous stretch of defensive play, both kind of flying by and not taking anybody. And I think it confuses them. And then, of course, there was Draisaitl's terrible back check on the Vegas goal where he let the guy go. He was with him all the way up the ice and then lets him go in the home stretch. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that line. The Oilers are winning with it right now. They're not scoring much, and I think there's a relationship between that. My bad thing, Bruce. I don't know. I was watching the game on TV, and I'm going to go with something a little novel this time. There was an ad that they must have run 5 times for this movie about cities on wheels. Did you see that ad in the future?
I must have, but you know what I do, David? During the commercials, I'm either winding back and looking over some previous footage, or that's when I pick up my tablet. Or honestly, long before the times of rewind or tablets, I've learned just to tune out the commercials. I just don't.
Well, this is the single dumbest movie idea of the year, at least maybe of the decade, Bruce. It's the apocalyptic future.
Mad Max.
It's an apocalyptic future, and for some reason they've decided to put entire cities on wheels. So the city of London is on wheels.
That's how they roll.
That's how they roll.
Okay, the whole city rolls together as one.
Yes, it's a time of great scarcity, of course.
Does the Thames go with it?
I don't know. There was some. I think I saw St. Paul's on the city on wheels. They've somehow hoisted it up. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Okay, that seems like I'll watch for the commercial. Maybe I'll pay attention one time just to.
It'll make your head hurt.
Miss the movie.
All right, what is your number?
Well, my number is I got actually a couple of them because they're so close. One is 23 minutes and 59 seconds. One is 23 minutes 41 seconds, and that is the average ice time for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl since Ken Hitchcock took over behind the bench 6 games ago. And he is really leaning heavily on those guys. Like that for a forward, those are huge minutes. And in the case of Draisaitl, in LA, he played 24-24. He was 3 seconds shy of McDavid that night. And since then, 24-52, 25-21, 24-30 tonight to lead the Oilers in ice time, even ahead of McDavid, who's traditionally been their leader just about every game. And Leon is just picking up more and more responsibility. Hitchcock's just piling it on him. He's playing both special teams. He's taking key faceoffs. And of course, he's piling up the minutes at even strength. But 4 games in a row north of 24 minutes. and that could be part of the underlying reason why it looks like he's dragging butt a little bit at times. But the coach is sure laying it on his big fellows, and they're
They're great players. Both of them
yeah,
are. I mean, I have some criticisms of Draisaitl now and then is because I expect more out of him.
lots of people do. He's got the big Frank Mahovlich thing where any night he doesn't score a couple of goals, you think, Jesus, he could be doing more because he kind of expected to, be
Well, he
filling
could
the
have
net.
been back checking on that goal against. I will say that.
Yeah, well, he got an assist again tonight, like he did last game, and scoring has dried up a little bit in the short run. But it was nice to see those guys quick. They gone 4 games in a row without an even strength goal, or at least a
Yeah,
five on
yeah.
five goal.
And if they're not scoring, the goals are few and far between for everybody else. So,
Well,
Bruce, I'm tempted to say my number is 2 million, which is the number of heads that exploded in Toronto when Brian Burke went on and railed against the Nylander contract. I still don't get the Nylander contract. Like, is it 2 contracts? Like the first year is so much more money than all the other years, and I don't get the average annual value of that contract. Anyway, let's not get into that
they average it
unless you know.
down this year because he missed the
I see.
first 60 days or whatever, and it's cap friendly has an explanation. I read it twice. I didn't understand it either time, but presumably whatever number they kick out at the end of the day makes sense. But it turns out that Toronto maybe benefited from the fact he held out so long, so it really front loaded the contract this year before they have the Matthews Marner extensions to.
So is it a 7 million a year deal essentially? Six point nine
Uh,
nine 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 nine, something like that.
something like that. I haven't actually seen the all the figures. I just heard that first year is way more.
I don't know if I agreed with Burke's assessment, but I certainly thought it was like I just knew people in Toronto would be gritting their teeth because they're all
Mhm.
so ready to clap for Kyle Dubas being the greatest hockey genius of all time. So
Well,
anyone,
he might be. He's certainly one of the leading lights of the current century. I'm not sure he quite hangs it there with Sam Pollock just yet,
I'll
but
wait till they've won a playoff round before I
a
say anything.
playoff round, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's wait till they win a playoff round.
I'll say this, David, about Toronto. They got an exciting team,
They do.
and they're
They
they're
do.
fun to watch. If you can somehow park your personal animus towards Toronto, which many of us just simply can't do. But if you can and just watch the team, they're fun to watch. They got tons of offensive talent.
I really like Mitch
The power
Marner, and
play. I'm a big fan. I've got actually in my
I like Morgan Riley too.
keeper league. I let Morgan Riley go a couple years ago, and that was a big mistake. But I still have Mitch Marner and William Nylander, who I've been impatiently waiting to get in the lineup. So at least I got him signed before the deadline. But Marner's a beauty, man, oh man, and such a playmaker he is from the
He's a
wing.
fantastic hockey player. He really is. And I remember the Oilers looked like they might be drafting 4th that year, and all the talk was they might take Strome, and I was thinking, no, don't take Strome, take Marner.
Mhm.
So my actual number though is 8, which is the number of grade A, the number of major mistakes on grade A scoring chances against total for Clefbaum and Larson. 5 for Clefbaum that game and 3 for
Oh,
Larson, including of course the one goal where Clefbaum actually had a fairly tough
that was
goal that
that
play.
was pretty unlucky too. I mean, the puck hit his skate, and.
But there was too much chaos, and there has been like they've been fairly chaotic, the both of them. And Larson's made a lot of bad pinches the one game against LA there when
Mhm.
Kopitar scored, and they've got to get it together a little bit more. They've got to, I don't know, listen to Hitchcock, whatever he's saying, do it a little bit more because that's 5. Like a good defenseman, like even in a tough minutes, is only going to get maybe one such mistake per game. Like it's going to happen. It's a hard
Yes.
position against tough players. It's going to happen. You're going to make a major mistake, but you can't average. You've got to average about 1 a game, even in that tough role. So 5,
Yeah, that's a hard night.
3. They're lucky. The Oilers are lucky to get out of this game with a victory, and it's because of Koskinen that they did. He
Yeah.
he got that win for them. Good for him. And let's give Peter Chiarelli, who's everyone wanted to fire out of a cannon into the sun for the last from out of a what is his name, a Gerald Bull gun, one of those super guns.
Trebuchet.
Yeah, slingshot him
Big
into
trebuchet.
orbit. He signed Mikko Koskinen and he got all kinds of hell from all the
Yep.
smart, so-called smart guys. Just endless hell. And look what's happening here. Mikko Koskinen is so far at least the savior of the Oilers season. So
Well, he's 8-2-1 now, and they had a graphic during the game comparing him to how goalies in their first 11
yeah,
games with the Oilers, and he matched Ron Lowe. You remember they got Ron Lowe at the trade deadline for Ron Chipperfield and his dying mother, in March of 1980.
and he got them in
Lowe,
the playoffs
Lowe
that
came
year.
in. He went 8-2-1 down the stretch and got him in the playoffs. And the other two guys on the list were, I think, Fuhr and Ranford. Anyways, all from like 30 odd years ago, right? I mean, this is the first goalie that's come along in a long, long time that's put up early results like that. But when you've got Koskinen now at 8-2-1, and Talbot at 5-9-1, and the disparity between their save percentage, goals against average is equally wide gulf as that. That Koskinen has clearly established himself now as Oilers' number one goalie, and I think he's got the job for at least the short to medium term, unless he implodes a la Anders Nilsson in 2015, who got red hot and then ice cold. Um, but I don't see much sign of chaos. Like in Nilsson's case, you could kind of see he was riding the hot streak, and when the bloom came off the road, he just went right off the rails, and I don't see that with Koskinen. He's a pretty calm guy, and he keeps me calm. I really sort of feel like he's holding the fort back there, and so far he's getting the job done.
Yeah, there was rumors last week. Sarah Volley was having Talbot on the trading blocker.
Oh,
I just think it's a little premature for that. Like I like Koskinen, but I
I
mean,
don't.
when you look at I mean, when they signed Koskinen, I looked at like older European goalies coming over to North America, and there was only two examples. There was about 30 of them who had done it the last
Mhm.
10 or 15 years. And only two of them had been good in their first year. Roman Czechmanik was one. I can't recall the other one right now. And only a handful of them had ever worked out. So this is, it's a long shot with Koskinen, and it still is. There's good early returns. There's great early returns.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Couldn't be better early returns, really. But
eight two
there's
and
still a
one.
big but here, and I would not be thinking
Well,
they may need Cam Talbot before this is all over. And he's going to be Sam Wise to Koskinen's Frodo here, and he's going to have to carry that ring, Bruce, for a little while. That's what I'm thinking.
yeah, due respect to Frank Saravalli, but I mean, articles like that are to some degree clickbait. And the article, as I remember reading it, was the five goalies most likely to be traded this year. And my take on it wasn't that all five of these guys are going to get moved in the next week. It was that if a goalie gets moved during the year, chances are pretty good it's going to be one of these five guys. Because almost never does a significant goalie get traded during the season. It's rare enough for goalies to get traded in the off season, but more often they move on as they become significant after they've been traded, where they've gone from one team's backup to another team's starter or signed as free agents. But very rarely do you see a top notch, even number one keeper on any team get traded during the year. So
Well,
Talbot's number four on a list that there might be one guy traded over the course of the year of those
yeah,
top guys, and
it's
otherwise
just I don't mind hockey. It's just talk. It's hockey talk.
well,
I'm okay with it.
no, I get that. And the clickbait is, I don't mean that as all a bad thing. People thinking and talking about a different subject. But I mean, you're much more often to see Al Montoya get traded during a season than Cam Talbot.
We'll put it this way, Bruce. Let's say Koskinen got hurt or he started to play
Oh
poorly.
yeah.
If you're Chiarelli and Hitchcock, you're aware of both possibilities, maybe
Mhm.
eventualities, and you're thinking, okay, who has a better chance of coming in and giving us a run of good games? Al Montoya or Cam Talbot?
Mhm.
And you're thinking I'm going to hold on to Cam Talbot because I need to. Peter Shelley thinks I need to make the playoffs this year, or I'm losing my job. And Ken Hitchcock's thinking I need to make the playoffs this year, or I'm not getting another contract. And I'm liking this gig. So I see. The more I think about it, it's almost like zilch chance that Talbot gets traded.
I agree. And I mean, some people take the ball and run with it and say, well, let's move him along for draft picks or something because they've grown tired of him or whatever. I mean, if Philadelphia comes along and says, we're desperate for a goalie and we're going to give you Travis Konechny for Cam Talbot and bits and pieces, well, you got to look at that. But like I said earlier, those kind of trades rarely come up during the season that a netminder gets moved for any kind of a significant piece.
Hard to believe that Talbot would have a lot of value right now. Like, what if he was traded for a draft pick? What would that draft pick be? Like, it's hard to imagine it would be more than a third at this, like right now. I guess maybe a second.
That's kind of the standard price for goalies. I mean, the Oilers paid a third for Ben Scrivens. They paid a third and a fifth for Victor Fast. They paid a second and a third for Cam Talbot. It's rarely even a first round pick involved in such deals.
I guess you might be able to get a second now for Talbot. That would be the top amount, and why would you do that? That would be insane to trade a second Cam Talbot for a second round pick because he may help you get in the playoffs this year before all is said and done. So you can't, and this is the thing when we're talking goalies, and I think there was an era where goalies were kind of like, well, it's just a goal. You don't want to pay too much money because it's hard to predict if a goalie's going to be good or not. And all that's true. That's true. But the thing to remember is when the goalie is on the ice, he's your number one goalie. He's not like your fourth line winger or your third pairing defenseman. He is your most important player. Even if he's your backup goalie, he is your most important player. The one who more than anyone else is going to decide the game for you that night. That's the fact of the matter. So to have two of them that can maybe get it done, like I'd hold on to both.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about ice time a minute ago, and since Hitchcock took over, 155 minutes for Clefbaum, 144 for McDavid, 142 for Draisaitl, 141 for Larson, and so on. Well, Mikko Koskinen has played 304 minutes, I think it is. And he's played 5 out of the 6 games, and he's played from the beginning to the end of every one of those games.
And in terms of being involved in grade A chances, like if you look at just hockey as who's creating grade A chances, who's leaking them, well, the goalie is the one guy involved in all those grade A chances against every single one of them. He's the key guy. And yeah, it's hard to it's like the pitcher in baseball, obviously. This is like the guy on the team. So thankfully the Oilers have one who's doing a little bit of Nolan Ryan out there, Bruce, for my mandatory 1970s sports tonight. All right, let's leave it. Let's leave it there.
Can he throw noogies like Nolan Ryan? That's the next question. Maybe you'd have to be crazy to go after the gigantor there. And oh my man, he's a big man.
If Mikko Koskinen was a baseball pitcher, who would he be?
Randy the Big Unit Johnson.
Kent Tekulve.
Another mandatory 70s reference.
I haven't watched baseball since
the
Expos left Montreal, man. I'm done with that sports. And I haven't followed it since the steroids thing. I'm just done. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Bruce.
Baseball fan my entire life. Still.
Great. It's a good sport. Thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.